Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. We are continuing with Cat City and getting closer to the end of the story. Remember, last time, Susan and Tucker are at the gate fighting with Julian and Kai. Susan wants to try and close the gate, but cannot seem to figure it out, while Tucker and Julian get ready to have their own fight. In this chapter, Tucker and Julian fight, and things are not going well for Tucker. Julian cheats and does everything he can. Finally, Tucker does the unexpected and jumps over Julian to help Susan with Kai, who is throwing his magic at her. Susan gets a hold of Julian again and uses his magic to close the gate. Julian is wondering what the rats will do with him now. Once the gate is closed, the rats try to get out of the city, but the cats are right behind them, led by Vinny. Tucker has another battle to fight, but this one will not end the way he had hoped. Cat City, Chapter 19 and 20. Tucker knew Julian had more experience than he did, but he was heavier boned because of his common father and was very, very fast. He immediately put both to good use, throwing all of his weight and speed at the traitor without warning. Against any other cat, his tactic would have worked. Julian, however, spent most of his life cheating his way to the top. Because of that, the battle became incredibly one-sided and not in Tucker's favor. Despite his best efforts, he found himself collapsed at Julian's feet within moments, out of breath and frustrated that he couldn't figure out how to get past Julian's trickery. "Stupid boy," the former guard captain slammed Tucker into the hard ground. "You're wasting your time. You can't beat me." Tucker sighed. It took him a moment to recover, time Julian wasn't about to give him. Tucker barely managed to roll himself away from the next attack and lay panting. And saw Susan fighting Kai near the gate. With a surge of renewed strength, Tucker lunged for them, only to be blocked by Julian, who landed lightly in Tucker's path. "Going somewhere?" Julian laughed at him. Tucker gritted his teeth. "Get out of my way," he snarled. "Or what?" Julian's whole backside swayed as his tail thrashed. Instead of answering, Tucker did the unexpected. He leaped over Julian rather than attacking him and bolted for Susan. He watched as Kai attacked her with magic, seeing the pink light arcing toward her, and threw himself directly into Kai. Susan had only a heartbeat to dodge out of the way of the spell when Tucker hit Kai. She heard it echo against the gate behind her with a clang and almost fell over as the magic he threw freed the silver portal and it swung free. "Susan!" Tucker yelled at her. "I'm fine," she yelled back. "I've got the gate. Keep them away." She turned and put all her weight against the heavy door. Slowly, ponderously, the shining gate began to swing closed. But the momentum slowed and stopped as the magic wore off. Panting, Susan looked back. She had managed to get the gate more than half closed, narrowing the entry, but knew it wasn't enough. The whole area in front of it was full of rats and cats battling each other. She felt tears well as she watched the fighting. The rats suffered heavy casualties, but the cats were so few compared to the endless, rippling column of rats. "I have to get this gate closed," she told herself. "Now." Susan was turning back to the gate when she spotted Julian sneaking up on Tucker, still fighting with Kai. Furious and desperate, she lunged for the traitor and grabbed him by the scruff of his neck. This time, she was prepared for his attempts to get away. She held him at arm's length and shook him hard. "Use your magic," Susan yelled at him. "Close the gate." He snarled at her, eyes pulled tight, ears flat. "Never," he yowled. Susan shook him harder. "Do it," she screamed, "or I toss you to the rats." Julian writhed in her hands, fighting to get free. "You're too late," he hissed at her. "Even if the gate gets closed now, the rats are in the city." "Through the tunnel?" she said. "Guess again. Vinny and his guards have already taken care of them." "At least I hope that's what happened," Susan thought. Julian let out a howl of despair. "You lie!" "I can take you there if you want to see for yourself," she said. Susan felt that same thrill and knew what it meant. Julian was gathering his power. Because of that, she was ready when he fired his magic at her. The moment he released it, Susan spun him around and pointed him at the gate. The red light hit the gate and pushed it hard. "No!" Julian howled. She took one step back and looked at him. "See if your new friends like you now," she said before throwing the cat as hard as she could out of the gate and into the seething mass of rats. Susan hit the gate with her shoulder, pushing against the rushing rats, hearing squeals and screams as she forced the gate closed against them. She put her last energy into closing the gate, breath panting in fear and desperate hope, and heard it clang shut. She felt energy pass through her body as the magic of the gate moved through her as it sealed itself. Oddly, as it did, Susan felt that thrill course through her, waking something inside her, before falling still again. She could hear Julian howling for a long time behind the gate and wondered what the rats would do with him. "Bad kitty," Susan whispered. Susan was surrounded by rats, but now, she realized, instead of attacking, they were running, trying to get back out through the closed gate. They piled up on top of each other, climbing her legs. She shook them off with a cry of disgust and pushed her way to the guardhouse. It wasn't until she looked up that she discovered why. Hundreds of cats, led by the unmistakable Vinny, attacked the rats, driving them back. She felt a rush of relief. They won. Now that the gate was closed, and the tunnel too, the cats were more than a match for the rats that were left. Susan looked around for Tucker, and her heart froze as she saw he was still in terrible danger. Tucker fought Kai. Both were hurt, Vinny made it to her before she could stop the fight. "Let him finish it," was all he said. Susan watched, anxious. Tucker, however, had it under control. He stood over Kai, shaking with rage, fur standing on end. "Why?" Tucker demanded. "Not for power? Not to be king? I don't believe it. Why?" Kai coughed, a deep, racking sound, as he collapsed on the ground. "You don't believe?" "Tucker, you must admit you didn't know me as well as you thought." Kai started to laugh, but the cough won again. "I trusted you," Tucker said, crying, furious and hurt all at once. He wanted to lash out again, to make Kai feel the pain he was feeling deep inside, but knew the real pain was in his heart. "I loved you, and you betrayed me." "You can't know how much you meant to me, Tucker," Kai said softly. "I never wanted it to turn out this way. I had such great plans for Cat City, for you. But our way of life needs to change. The humans who created us, we are so much more now than we were then. To hide underground, to fear humans when we could be free? I know you would have understood if only. But by helping you, by encouraging you, I brought about my own downfall. Imagine." Kai fell still. Tucker howled in agony. Kai was like a second father to him, a teacher, a friend. It wasn't fair. Tucker looked up to see the rest of the council approaching. "They are coming for me," Kai said. "Yes," Tucker answered. "Goodbye, my son," Kai said. "Step away from him, Tucker," Tabitha ordered. "The traitor is our problem now." Tucker spun on them with a snarl. "You believe me now, do you?" All 4 of the council members bowed their heads, tails and whiskers low. "Please, Tucker," Albert said. "We need to take him. Let him go." Tucker stood there one more moment, breathing hard before spinning and sitting down, his back to them, not wanting to look at them or see them take Kai away. Susan knelt next to him and held out her hands. Tucker looked up at her, but wasn't ready for comfort. "I'm okay," he said instead. She looked hurt, but nodded and backed off. Tucker got up and paced away a few steps to gather his thoughts. He finally looked around him, seeing the cats cleaning up the rest of the rats that threw themselves with no result against the gate in an attempt to get away. "We'll have to scour the city." Vinny's voice was soft as he sat down next to Tucker. "We can't afford to have even one of them survive." "I know," he said. "We'll start right away." "I think there's a bunch lost in one of the tunnels," Susan offered softly from close by. Tucker hadn't realized she had followed them. "Oh?" Vinny said, voice light. "And why would that be?" "Took a wrong turn, I guess," Susan answered. Vinny patted Susan's knee with one big paw and turned back to Tucker. "Rest a bit," Vinny said. "Just a bit." Tucker nodded. He was suddenly very tired. A gasp from behind him, however, spun him around, and horrified, he gathered himself, knowing he had made a huge mistake. Kai broke free of his captors, not nearly as weak as he appeared, and was in mid-leap, headed directly for Susan. Tucker leaped without thinking, planning to intercept, but knowing this time, he was too late. Susan was hurt that Tucker didn't want her help, but wasn't really surprised. He went through so much, and it was all because of her. She stayed as close to him as she could, not wanting to be far, but turning away from her friend to give him the privacy he wanted. She sat down on the ground, hugging her drawn-up legs, just trying to stay out of the way. She was actually so tired, she started to nod a little when she heard a shout. She looked up in time to see Kai leaping at her. She knew she wouldn't have a chance to duck this time, so instead, she opened her arms and caught him. Susan felt the magic go into her and flinched, expecting the worst. Instead, she felt it flare and bounce against a wall of power within her. A power woken only a few short moments before that somehow felt so familiar. "You have found it then," Kai breathed, eyes heavy-lidded. "The statue," Susan said, "and the gate. The power went through me." "The power of the gate is human power," Kai told her so softly she could barely hear. "And that is what saved you. My power is now yours. I beg you." His pupils swelled as he stared into her eyes. "Use it to free my people from Cat City." "I don't understand," Susan said. "Free them?" "You will." His voice faded, so she was forced to lean closer to hear. "All I did for them. When the time comes, you must help them be free." Susan nodded, though still confused. "I'll do my best." Susan felt that thrill again as something that felt like a promise, sealed in magic, passed between them. Kai seemed satisfied with her answer. He sighed heavily once. "Farewell, Susan." And I hope you will join me next time for the end of this story. Good night. Sleep tight.